Hey everyone, I'm Allie.
And I'm Lindsay.
And this is Brandsplaining, the business casual podcast for entrepreneurs who need to be the center of attention.
Yeah. And on today's episode, we're talking a product near and dear to my heart, booze.
Booze. Yeah, it was really fun to talk. We'll get into our guest in a minute, but it was really fun to talk about a booze brand that steps outside my usual vodka consumption. So it was thrilling.
It's true. Frankly, when I think of exciting liquor, I think tequila, but I think only because it's usually associated with high energy.
Shots,
Yeah. Margaritas,
tacos.
the greatest hits. Was it the greatest hits of America, but like none of those things were founded here?
No, there are no great hits in American cuisine. Corn.
Excuse me, hot dogs, your husband's favorite food?
So for our listeners, when Lindsay moved to Nashville, she was offloading things from her freezer and gave me a package of hot dogs. So embarrassing to say.
Let me just say something. This was stuff that's been in our freezer for a while. It's not like I just was like, Allie, my dear best friend and business partner, here's a package of hot dogs. There were legit things in there.
As a parting gift.
Yeah. There was like loaves of bread and like organic tomatoes you can use for a sauce. There were lots of legitimate things.
Yeah, it wasn't just hot dogs.
It wasn't a packet of hot dogs that I was like, my parting gift. But I knew that Matt would like them. And was I right or was I right?
You were right. The other day, he takes the the hot dogs out of the freezer, and I was going to go to Whole Foods, and I was like, "Do you want me to get anything?" He said, "Pick me up a can of baked beans." And I was like, "Oh no. Oh no, the hot dogs are coming out." And I came back, and he just dumped the can in a pot and just cut up all the hot dog slices and just dumped them all in a pot together. And he was kind of milling around the kitchen.
I didn't know that that's how that ended.
Yeah, that's how he cooked it. Well, because he was originally going to boil them, and then I kind of shamed him into not boiling them. And so decided to cut them up and bake them in the beans. I kind of came into the kitchen as he was talking to himself, and he goes, "Now, how many hot dogs should I make?" Like, what? Like, he's going to eat all of them. Just make all of them. Get it over with.
You're like, I know the answer to that. Just make the hot dogs. The beans reminds me of one of my favorite like Cut for Time SNL sketches with Will Ferrell. He plays like a old panhandler called Gus Chiggins. Have you ever seen this?
Oh, God, no.
I feel like there's beans involved.
Is he eating them out of a can? I kind of remember that when you said that.
No, he's dressed like, like an old, like in the old time when they're panning for gold. And he like clangs his pots a lot, and like Chris Kattan Can't Stop Laughing, Jim, like Horatio Sands. It's one of the ones that never made it to air, but it's one of my favorites. Everyone should look it up. It's like when Will Ferrell was at his best.
Oh, I love him.
Gus Chiggins.
I love
Should
that.
we get
Back to gin?
Hot dogs, check. Beans, check. Branding. Gang's all here.
Brats, beans, and branding.
Beansplaining.
Oh my God.
Oh man. Okay, so today was a really wonderful episode. We talked to the senior brand marketing manager for Aviation Gin, Adrian Molina, about sort of their idea of bucking tradition in an industry in order to stand out and make your brand exciting. And they have obviously done an excellent job of that in the last few years. So it was really great.
It was wonderful talking with him. I think Aviation Gin is most notable for its ownership by Ryan Reynolds and his presence in all of the brand marketing videos, which are just laugh out loud funny. They're so hilarious. And they definitely have that unmarketing feel where it's a bit hyperbolic and absurdist and a little self-deprecating. And it's just, oh God, what a treat.
So good. And yeah, like Aviation Gin is killing it. They're the world's highest rated gin. They're at 97 points on Wine Enthusiast. They're growing very fast, and they're really doing something different in the industry. I know that gin, it feels like gin, whiskey, a lot of these sort of heritage brands really focus in their marketing efforts on like, in the families for, 300 years or sort of like how it's made or all of those things. We talked to Adrian to hear more about how they are sort of carving their own path in that and making gin exciting again. And I think part of that is due to like the actual product because it has a lot like a softer and smoother feel, like juniper sort of in the background. So it already is a new exciting product in the way that it like originated and is now. But then in their branding and marketing, obviously it's so different than what you're seeing, Beefeater do or other gin brands.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's actually a really delightful product. I was never historically a gin drinker, but
Mhm.
lately, I feel like I've had a couple great gin cocktails, and they've all been with Aviation. I think it is because I've always associated gin with tasting like a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And so, it's never been appealing as a cocktail, but yeah, they've really done a great job of, again, making it more citrus and floral forward. So, yeah, it's just a wonderful drink now.
I feel like another good thing we talked with Adrian about was I was really curious to hear about his team and the way they work with Ryan Reynolds and his creative partner and what that balance is between Ryan's specific sense of humor, the brand's personality and
Mhm.
all of that. And he sort of talked about how important it is to have a deep and intimate understanding of what your brand would say, wouldn't say, what they would do, and how they've established that and stayed true to that in order to
Mhm.
really amass like a loyal group of fanatics, really.
Yeah, I mean, he talked about we get into it in the episode, but people have been creating fan art for Aviation Gin because that's how much they love the brand and love the taste and love the whole marketing experience. And so people have actually been taking their time and effort to create fan art to celebrate
Yeah.
this product, which is wild. But something else he said that I really love is he talks a lot about in this episode how important self-awareness and empathy is as a key approach to humor.
Mhm.
And I think that that's something that often gets overlooked is how, and this is something we always run all of our marketing and copy and messaging through, is that how are people going to react and respond to it? How is this going to
Mhm.
make people feel? And I think you do have to have a deep sense of awareness about both yourself as a brand and your consumer and the emotional reaction that you're going to be eliciting and having empathy as to, what's their experience, what's their background, how might they feel in response to, any of the humorous copy or campaigns that you're developing. So
Yeah.
I thought that was such a nice piece that he brought up that I don't think that's come up in any of our interviews so far.
Yeah, I think another thing in that sort of vein, was talking to him about their relationship with pop culture and the zeitgeist and
Mhm.
how much of a pulse you have to have on that in order to be relevant, how fast you have to get things out. And I think that's not maybe necessarily possible for certain brands with a certain budget, but I do think the key takeaway there would be like being nimble and
Mhm.
being willing to pivot and being willing to pay attention to what people care about and draw lines between what's going on in the world and your brand. I think it's a
Mhm.
really fine line to walk, but I would say if you're a brand, a smaller brand maybe without the budget that aviation might have for a lot of their initiatives, and you've just become aware of a meme or a trend or a something, you should look up when it began because if it is
Yeah.
several months old, unless you're super self-aware and you're poking fun of yourself for using it, it
Mhm.
will end up doing the opposite and actually ostracizing you from people because it will make you I just think that it's a comedic device that you have to be very careful with, but the takeaway still though is paying attention and being nimble and being willing to pivot even if you have it's like killing your darlings, killing your creative darlings.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, because there's nothing worse than seeing really outdated, overdone memes and jokes crop up on brand social media. Like, there are still brands that are using "Stay calm and carry on" and, like,
oh,
doing what they think are funny riffs on that. I mean, first of all, that started not as a joke, but then it became a joke. A lot of brands were, like, inserting their own brand product into that.
it's like 1,000 years old.
That's 1,000 years old, yeah, so if you are just now coming to those type of comedic devices, I mean, you have missed every train has left the station. So, yeah, so I think what's so fun about them is they are on top of it, and they're hopping on those zeitgeisty bandwagons within, like, hours and rolling
Yeah.
things out, within the week, so
Yeah, so we think you guys are gonna love this conversation. We had the best time talking to Adrian, and I think you're gonna learn a lot about, using comedy and laughter as a gift so that people don't feel sold to and instead feel a part of so it creates a relationship. I just think it's a really powerful lesson, and we can't wait for you to hear it.
enjoy.
And now, for all the women in the business of being women in business. For girl bossy bosses and boss girly girls. For CEOs, mogals, and branding babes ready to make herstory. Please put your lady hands together and welcome to the stage, Brandsplaining.
tiniest bottle of gin.
I'm actually working on top of my apartment bar, so
Nice. It's so good to chat with you.
likewise.
How are you feeling right now? Are you ready?
I'm ready. Yeah, I mean, you guys are put together. Like, oh my God, all the calendar reminders, the forms. I was like, damn. That's what made me nervous too.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's like, what's that line between like, we're taking this very seriously, but like it's very fun?
We take it seriously so we can have fun.
That's true. It's like a Ryan Reynolds shoot is not even this well. Like,
It's like when a teacher says like, the more boundaries we have, the more fun we can have within those boundaries. You're like, oh God.
So we've created a prison.
it's a virtual prison. So
We're going to have a ton of fun here. So before we dive into anything related to the aviation brand, we always start the pod off with this question. It's sort of a classic icebreaker, if you will. What's the most memorable time Hugh Jackman was mean to you?
We ask everybody this.
Everyone.
yeah.
Standard.
That's amazing.
Across the board.
There must be so many responses because that man is the devil.
The cruel, cruel soul.
Don't let that accent fool you.
Yeah.
So there was a time we were filming a spot, the Truce one, where Ryan makes an ad for Hugh and vice versa. So Hugh was filming his now infamous part of him knocking over the bottle, which, yeah.
I love that part.
It's always fun. It's everyone's favorite part. So with any shoot, there's just tons of riffing and B-roll, especially when Hugh and Ryan are together. It's like watching two kids like hey. So then I was in Hugh's line of sight when he's just improvising, and he asked me if the gin was any good, and I'm just like more of like shrugging if like he was talking to me or if he was like, are we rolling right now? What the hell's happening? And he's like, the senior brand manager of your brand, Ryan, can't even tell me if this gin is good. He's just there shrugging, and I felt it super deeply. And then the director's like, all right, cut. And he's like, I'm just joshing you, man. So I was like, holy shit. So for like a minute, I was just like, holy fuck. Hugh Jackman just roasted me.
That is so great.
Yeah.
It's kind of the dream. If you're going to get roasted by someone, he's not a bad specimen.
He was super nice about it too.
You're like, oh my God, I just blew it in front of Hugh Jackman.
I was like, no, I'm fired now. God damn it.
Super nice about questioning your capabilities as a brand manager. So nice.
Definitely, yeah.
Sweetheart.
Okay, we do have a second icebreaker that is not hazing, I promise. But it's a would you rather. And so you have to pick one of these two poisons. So the would you rather is, would you rather introduce yourself on every single work call by your first AOL screen name, which I want to hear about that in a second, or end every single work call with the statement, I'm going to make like a bakery truck and haul buns. And this is for the rest of your career.
Every meeting, every setting.
Are these Zoom calls or just any call?
Any call, any work call of any sort.
It could be a call between two cans and a piece of string. Any call, you're on the rest of your life.
I'd have to go with the former.
Okay. Because what was your AOL screen name?
It was 50 cents, but cents was spelled like your sense of smell.
No.
So I wouldn't mind coming through like, yo, what up? It's 50 cents. What's cooking?
Hey, everyone. And you'd have to be like, it's 50 cents with an S.
With an S.
Because your senses. They're like, oh, this guy.
But no, I'd emphasize 50 cents versus cent.
Oh, it's all in the diction.
Yeah.
So do you have a really strong sense of smell? Was that influential in the choosing of your AOL name?
I was like 12 or 13. I just thought it was funny.
It's a great word.
Yeah. I wanted to be a rapper when I grew up. So
there you go.
I mean, you're talking to us on a podcast. I mean, you're like a hair away from being a rapper.
I mean, if you put a beat on, maybe drop some bars.
Should we do some beatboxing?
Oh no, Allie, no.
The mic levels, no.
Open the window. Let's get the train in the background.
I need airplane sounds.
Although airplane sounds with aviation, it's almost like you hired those airplanes, didn't you? Ryan Reynolds hired the airplanes to zoom by.
Actually, I have a soundboard right here, airplane sound, air horns, everything air.
Yeah,
Get the
yeah.
going.
I love that sound.
Ryan Reynolds is just circling your building in his plane.
That'd be scary, but yeah.
Okay, Adrian, obviously you are a huge gin enthusiast, aviation gin in particular. I don't even think we can get into the rest of the interview until we talk about your aviation gin tattoo. Please tell us about it. What prompted it? What inspired it? What is it? We need all the details.
So for those who can't see, it's just the plain logo on my forearm underneath my Bodega Bad Thank You tattoo.
I love it.
Very cute.
So I got it, I want to say December of 2017. So I already knew that Ryan was going to invest. So I was like, you know what? He has a pretty cool tattoo on his wrist of like something. I might want to just try to get one of the brand and try to inspire him.
Yeah.
And this is like before I even met him in person. So I was like, I'm going to be a fanboy. But then, look, Ryan, we all have tattoos.
I love it.
But yeah, definitely alcohol influence. And then I went to my office to like the next day to my CEO and I was like, look, see, I got the tattoo. And he's like, why? I was like, job security. You can't fire me now.
I think you can't fire me ever.
I think that's the rule.
You can't fire me. Can't change the logo anytime soon.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
They're like, we're doing a rebrand. And you're like, please no.
Keep the propeller.
That actually happened to my colleagues because she was inspired by my tattoo that she got one for her brand. And a year later, total repackaging, rebranding.
Oh, no.
But I guess at least then it's like vintage, right? You're like, this is when I was working there.
Classic brand strategy manager.
So nothing too crazy, but yeah.
So what prompted you to get that and not Ryan Reynolds' face if you're really trying to wow him?
Because I'm afraid to get a tattoo on my back, and that seems like the only place to put Ryan's face.
Yeah.
Nice and big on my back. So I thought maybe let me work on my arm where I have my sleeve. Just a little plain will do, as opposed to the Ryan caricature on my back.
Well, Adrian, as someone who has a lower back tattoo, let me tell you, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of the embarrassment or the shame you'll feel years in the future when you look back in the mirror and you go, why would I do that? Don't let any of that concern you.
I might do it if I leave companies just to establish rules right off the bat. There's nothing like starting a new job with like a lower back tattoo of that company.
Yeah,
so you're
agreed.
just like, hi, what's up? I'm 50 cents. This is my lower back tattoo.
Well, gonna make like a bakery truck and haul buns. And they're like, we're hiring that guy. We're hiring that guy.
That's how you fast track it.
Yeah. It's like the thank you note is dead. Getting a tattoo for interviews. You heard it here first, folks.
You're about that life.
The expectation is you get a brandsplaining tattoo at the end of this. So just so you know what you signed up for.
Okay, deal.
Which is our faces. So that will be your first face tattoo will be.
So should I wait, face tattoo on my face of your faces?
No, our logo is our faces. So our faces will be on your body.
Got it.
This got weird fast and I like it.
This really did, yes. Lower back is totally fine then. Thank you.
Okay, so you told us that Aviation Gin's mission is sort of to make gin exciting again and really different than what traditional gin brands are doing. Can you tell our listeners or tell us, I guess, sort of what traditional gin brands are doing that you guys are trying to like deviate from?
Yeah, so it does stem from kind of the origin of aviation.
Mm-hmm.
It's founded in 2006 by the first ever distiller-bartender relationship.
Mm.
So you have a master distiller with the know-how, technicality, and a mixologist/bartender who knows taste profiles and everything. So they wanted to make what they called a summer gin at the time, something they could drink neat, they could just drink chilled, bring to parties. Because 2006, I'm not sure if you remember this because I was blackout that whole year and era. This was during the peak of Pinnacle flavored vodkas taking over everywhere.
Yeah, we took that ride.
Whipped cream,
Swedish fish, and a million other flavors. So
strawberry Smirnoff was my poison back then.
Oof.
Gross. I know.
So yeah, they definitely hated that, them being Portland residents, via DIY. So they went back to kind of old type of American gins and found there's not a big history of American gins. And there was one brand called El Bart Gin that kind of went to shit and disappeared after Prohibition. So, which happened in 1917. So they took that knowledge of El Bart and started looking into like where are recipes for El Bart, and they stumbled upon this book called it's like the recipes for mixed cocktails. It's like a cocktail book, and it was the last cocktail book published before Prohibition by this dude Hugo Enslin.
Oh wow!
So the cocktail that was the highlight of the book was this cocktail called the Aviation cocktail.
Oh, very cool.
So they kind of use like, okay, if we can make a gin that can make that cocktail perfectly, that's it.
That's the goal.
Yeah,
that's the goal. So they went through like multiple iterations and landed on what Aviation is today, and that's also where the name comes from that cocktail, because it was the North Star.
That's amazing.
Oh, history lesson. Yeah.
That's great. No, we love it. Wait, do you remember the what is the Aviation cocktail?
Yes, it's gin, maraschino, cherries, something liqueur. I should know this. I'm a marketer. I'm not an mixologist. It's pretty complicated. It's good when it's made properly.
Yeah. Excellent. We'll have to look that up. That sounds good.
And then in terms of how you think a lot of, I guess, like other gin brands are marketing and branding themselves, how would you say I feel like there's a lot of tradition there. People aren't using a lot of humor, right? Like, how would you explain what you guys are trying to do different in a branding and marketing perspective?
What we do in terms of marketing and how we see ourselves as a brand did stem from being an American gin, like one of the first pioneers of called the New School American Gin. So the initial tagline for the brand was "Fly in the face of tradition." It's like, okay, we kind of see where that's going.
Yeah, that's cute.
So very rebellious, not of the norm, and your standard, what we call London dries. In terms of taste and marketing, it's just very, I don't want to say last year, like last century, last decade almost. I'm sure most people who are familiar with gin once in their life when they were like 14 on a December day, got drunk off their mom's beef eater and swore off gin for forever. So then they went to college and were like, no, I hate gin. I get hungover. It tastes like pine cups in a glass or pine trees and all that. And that's because those London dries are very juniper heavy. So Aviation Gin, less juniper, more botanical forward. And that's like how we differ in taste. And marketing, they're talking about the terroir, just the heritage distilling. And heritage distilling, just like, oh, we've been around for 500 years, blah, blah, blah. And nothing's changed. How exciting.
Thrilling value prop.
Yeah. And it's just like overall very stuffy. So obviously us being the Renegade brand, flying the face of tradition, why can't we just make fun of gin? Because let's not have the marketing be serious since we take the actual product super serious.
Yeah, I love that. Aviation has such a distinct personality. If you had to describe some of its characteristics or its sense of humor, how would you describe it? Tell us more about that, because it's very unique, very distinct, and very consistent across the brand.
Yeah, I'd say it's your fiance's best friend from childhood. That's also the maid of honor or the best man that you don't fully trust but enjoy.
That's so funny.
Very specific.
And it's like the life of the party. But then you cry during the speech they give during your wedding. That's Aviation Gin.
I love that.
It's heartfelt, tongue-in-cheek, passionate, all that.
It's a bad boy with a heart of gold. That's what it is.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Oh, that's so great. And I think that sort of ties into the next question we have, which is how much of Ryan Reynolds' sense of humor guides the brand voice or the campaign choices. I know he's like the face of many of those, but like how much of that is other people's writing, his instincts, improvising, that kind of thing?
So on the Ryan side of the world, it's obviously Ryan and his creative partner. His name is George Dewey. He's my day-to-day with Ryan and pretty much Ryan's other half of his brain. So if George doesn't like it, I know Ryan's not going to like it. Or if like George likes stuff, then like, all right, cool. So he's a good buffer as opposed to me just like Ryan, hey, Ryan, hi. So they oversee a lot of the big content scripting
Okay.
and ideation. And they'll loop me in, a couple of drafts. Obviously, me overseeing the brand itself, there's certain keywords I want to hit that initially was a learning curve. I was like, can we talk about taste here? Because we're a gin also. We want to kind of give some subtle way of letting people know it's actually good.
Right.
Yeah.
So, for example, during the Peloton commercial, like that, this gin's really smooth. That was like, after I was like, yeah, we need something about taste here. And like that line like blew up. It's like, this gin is really smooth. So on those things, Ryan and George like to write the copy for like outdoor out of home stuff. So we had a bunch of trucks that we've had for the past 2 years going around that say, driver doesn't carry any cash, just aviation gin. And it's like a big picture of Ryan.
Yeah.
So definitely like the high level stuff, Ryan and George are the geniuses on it. And when it trickles down to sort of digital and everyday messaging, I take that and run with the ball.
Okay.
And a lot of his humor, like I've been a Ryan Reynolds fan before I even knew who Ryan Reynolds was. Yeah. As someone who spent a long time in college, Van Wilder, very close.
Adrian, same.
So I'm just always trying to make people laugh, and I appreciate a good, dark, subversive humor. So it was really, I feel easier on George and Ryan. They didn't have to worry about the day-to-day messaging and like, if it was like a third-party agency, them being like, hey, kids, today is buy a drink day, or like that generic messaging that I feel you would usually get from a evergreen agency or something.
Yeah. Okay, so because Ryan and George, they're really leading a lot of out-of-home content, what's the pulse check on any of the other copy and marketing initiatives that you're working on to make sure that there's a consistent voice and personality?
I wish there was a science behind that. It's just more of a vibe.
Yeah.
I always just try to think like, is this funny? I'll just put it out there for the brand. And what I've learned a lot from like Ryan and George is obviously empathy goes a long way. So your first thought is like, is this going to piss off somebody? If so, who? Okay. Then you go the next layer and step from there. So for example, I went kind of rogue on the messaging out onlygins.com. And there was there was a hesitation of just like, oh man, I'm going to offend my sex worker friends with this. But at the end of the day, it's just redirecting to a site, our website. And if anything, it's just, a tongue-in-cheek nod on that. So
will you give like a brief, tell our listeners what the Only Gins like little stunt was, just so that they...
Literally the dumbest thing ever.
So good. I love it.
Drunkenly bought the URL in February. Have just been sitting on it. And I'm like, I don't know. It's just funny. That's the thing. Like a lot of it just stems from inside jokes, I feel.
Yeah.
Same thing with Ryan and George. They're always just like texting each other jokes that somehow become a script. So that I'm sitting on this domain, and then I saw some awesome, user-generated content of just a bare naked bottle. And it was the day before 9/11. I don't like to post on 9/11. So I was like, I got to get something out. And it was just like, fuck it. Onlygins.com with this naked bottle. Didn't have to explain it, and people ate it up. And when Adweek reached out, I was just like, I have to be serious on this. I have to sound enlightening. Oh God. So we love playing within the pop culture zeitgeist. Again, you're not going to see too many traditional stuffy gins doing that, as they want to talk about their campaigns, as they're very campaign specific. But I feel having a wide campaign puts you in a box that you can't do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because if it was like, fly above the clouds, I can't be like, onlygins.com, above the clouds.
You have to like loop it back in.
Yeah. So I think just having an aesthetic and just almost, not the word routine, a vibe. A brand vibe is kind of what we're going to coin.
Yeah, no, I like that. Well, I think you're so entrenched in it too, that when you have a deep understanding of your brand, I do think it makes it so much easier to do a quick pulse check. Is this aligned with who we are, what we do, what we stand for, how we talk, how we think, or is it not? And I think that comes with like really understanding your voice and your tone and the sense of humor and the sensibility. And also you have a small enough team where you're right in the heart of it with those two guys, which is great.
Yeah, definitely. And there are conversations at the top level, like, we need to talk more about the product. And it's like, we do. We drop recipes. We're always kind of alluding to it. I think the best, most effective advertisements in marketing is when you feel you're not being sold to.
For sure.
You take away
absolutely.
a negative information and you kind of, you're like, okay, cool. I heard Aviation Gin smooth. Maybe I'll try it one day,
Right.
but that'll be stuck in your head.
Absolutely.
We're just big believers in if you can become sort of like an earworm in someone's brain, even if they don't necessarily know why, and then they're at the liquor store and they see it. And so I think a lot of people just presume that marketing has to be so obvious, I guess, that in order to talk to people. And I think now more than ever, people are extremely sensitive to being sold to. And I feel like a device that you guys use a lot is sort of this unmarketing, the trend of being like, we're selling this to you. Isn't that crazy that we're selling this to you? Like saying it for what it is. And I think people really respond to that.
Yeah, I think it stems just us being a self-aware brand and Ryan being a self-aware person, which trickles down to the brand DNA. And yeah, I hate being sold to. Everyone does. And I think on our social channels, which has been super fun, and I usually just do it out of spite whenever I'm having a bad day. It's, there's a company behind the brand. So why can't you make fun of salespeople for our sales team said this, blah, 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 meme or something.
Totally.
Just kind of ripping on that. And I feel that lightens the mood and makes it more approachable. It's like, I have a company too. I have salespeople that annoy me. Wow, this brand's really talking to me about it.
We have so much in common.
We have so much in common. Like, I'm going to hang out with that brand on Friday now.
It is really fun, though. I think that it adds such a human component. And I think by being so self-aware, it allows your consumers to be in on the joke. Like everyone's in on the joke. Everyone's aware that you're being a bit hyperbolic and a little self-deprecating and teasy. And I think people really delight in that, is that, again, it strips away this sales funnel, this marketing channel, this pitch, and people seem so much more receptive. So yeah, you guys have done it so well.
Thank you.
Yeah. So because you tend to play a lot with the zeitgeist and trends and pop culture, which obviously moves super fast and can become dated and tired really quickly, tell us a little bit more about how you leverage that when it's really a fast-moving target and a very short window to play in. Because, for example, and I'll just flag Peloton and Only Gins as being two examples of you really jumping on a bandwagon really quickly.
Yeah, Peloton's a whole different beast. If we didn't get that ad out on Friday, it wouldn't have hit as much. And my PR team hated me for that.
Yeah.
Because the PR team's like, well, you're not going to get the coverage if you can't get embargoes set, give a little preview to it, have everything set with the writers. And it was like, nope, Ryan's letting it fly Friday night. And if you look back on that timeline, it's still fucking insane. That Monday, George and Ryan are texting about the Peloton thing, because that's kind of when it was social media chatter over the weekend. Then that Monday, it started hitting the actual news cycle. It's like, people are upset about this Peloton ad. So Tuesday, there was a script. Wednesday, I get the script in budget. And mind you, I'm landing in Austin, Texas during that time. So I turn on my phone and it's like, George, just like the script, like, hey, can we make this work money-wise? And this is December, so like I have no more budget. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, end of year.
Yeah, and the script was completely different from what it ended up as. So I'm trying to get approval and some extra funds. And Thursday morning, I'm talking with George. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, we can probably get this through. So, like, what's the big hook? Because I know Ryan's not in it. Is Blake going to be, like, the main girl who's giving the lines? And he's like, no, we got Monica. I'm like, wait, Monica is, like, the actual girl from the Peloton. And I'm like, dude, why didn't you tell me that? Like, I could have got this approved the next night.
Yeah.
So then they shot it Friday morning, edited it the afternoon, and it was out Friday night.
Wow, that was so quick. And just so folks, you basically did a parody of the Peloton ad that got released around the holidays last year. And there was a lot of buzz around it because the girl in the ad seemed to be, what would you say? Like
just uncomfortable.
It felt like she was forced into Pelotoning. Or
yeah. She's like taking selfies of herself, like, I'm just riding it. Oh, it feels good. So it was like very cringeworthy. My older C-levels who are 50-year-old white men were like, I don't feel it wrong. My wife loves Peloton. So I'm just like, oh boy. Like, and thankfully Ryan and George have like they have their pulse on pop culture.
Yeah.
Also pretty well. So it took me explaining to my C levels why I need that money and why could be big. But I don't consider it a parody.
It's like the sequel.
Yeah, it is a sequel.
It's like a sequel. And I've seen like some fan theories is like, is this an actual sequel? Did she leave him? Or is it a commentary on the actual actress post that? And this is a redemption arc.
Wow.
I was like, whatever you guys want to think, go for it. But I definitely see it as like more of a sequel.
Yeah, it's funny. Just the deadpan look into the camera.
It's iconic.
It's classic. It's so good.
That's a tattoo. That's the new Mona Lisa.
Make room for that on your body somewhere.
Hell yeah. Monica Ruiz, right there on my ribcage.
Okay, so Adrian, you're obviously cultivating and creating a ton of really funny campaigns and initiatives. So what's the highest praise either you have or can receive from a consumer regarding one of those campaigns?
What I love about our fan base is that they're very vocal and very creative. So much so that it's a little personal, because then people will be like, yeah, I saw that Peloton ad, got my wife Aviation Gin instead, and we're about to have a child soon. It's just like,
hi.
I'm like, okay, that resonated. Like, people are getting it on with our product. I think a lot of, the highest praise that I see from consumers is them being creative. And so like we have tons of fan art, like everything from paintings to spoof commercials to just like dope photography and stuff like that. So I think that's absolutely, wakes me up in the morning with a little smile. Just, seeing how like we're having fun being creative, being very self-aware. And if that inspires them to do something with our brand that, they might not have ever done, that's totally cool. Like, there's this girl, her name's Marilyn Starkloff. She lives in Florida. She took like the most dopest picture of Aviation Gin with like a candy cane garnish. And she like tagged the brand. It was like the dopest picture. So I just DM'd her as the brand. I'm like, hey, is it okay if we reshare this? Like, what's like, she's like, oh my God, yeah, that's awesome. So I reshared it, redid the copy on it. I forgot what I did, but she was like super thankful because she was thinking about quitting doing photography. So now she is going all out.
That's great.
I use her for gigs here and then for the brand.
No way.
Yeah. And she went viral on her own this summer because she just posted a picture on her Facebook of emergency Aviation Gin Mini, like this guy.
Yeah.
And to put like quarantine time. And this was like while the pandemic was happening.
Yeah.
And it made news everywhere. And like, we're getting tagged into it just because.
Really?
And she was like, that's not even my best photo. They've done so much better. I was just like, so just like seeing that inspiration come to fruition, we're more than happy to reward it and acknowledge it.
That's really wild too, is that for someone who's just a fan of the brand to take the time and effort and creativity to develop something for you as just like a gift without any expectation of a kickback or acknowledgement like that, you've really hit your sweet spot with your consumer when they're willing to do that.
No, definitely. And obviously, I'll send a couple bottles here and there and stuff, because there's some really awesome stuff. It just helps, having Ryan tagged in it too, because Ryan sees these things and loves them as well. And he does run his own socials. If that was ever a doubt, it's literally him, which is crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
But yeah, I'd say that's definitely rewarding. Them buying it is also nice because it pays the bills. But I just that extra effort of just like creating something under the brand because you're inspired by it.
Yeah, what a praise.
I feel like something Allie and I talk about a lot is that using laughter and humor and comedy in your marketing is like off the bat a gift to your consumer. So it's like that is embedded in, of course, we're all selling things. We're trying to like promote our businesses and our brands. But when you lead with that, I think it does create loyalty and a sense of connection and a relationship because you're already within that, giving them something before you're even asking for something.
Yeah, I would exchange a laugh, like a knee slapper or even like a chuckle more than a, ooh, this looks pretty type of thing. Because humor is like, it's a pretty big emotion. Like laughter is a big emotion.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel a lot of brands are scared to do it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of brands that do try to do it probably just don't understand their audience or the internets. as a whole.
Mhm.
So yeah, humor is everything, not only for the brand, but like my personal life and just everything.
Well, that's a perfect segue. We wanted to ask, can you see, looking back at your childhood or upbringing or kid personality, can you see any through line that led you to this work?
Oh man. So I'd say alcoholism in college, definitely. It's like, why don't I just work for alcohol companies? And I didn't even care if they pay me if it's free. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. Drink moderately, everybody. And I'd say definitely in the sense of the humor realm, I tried to be a stand-up comedian once when I was like 20. Yeah. So
How was that?
Tough stuff.
it was an open mic in college, and I just did it twice.
Yeah.
And it was awful. It's like me making jokes about the sorority girls. I'm like, oh. So it was never good, but I've always just had a passion. Like, I'm a big comedy fan. And I think it's a good way to convey messages
Absolutely.
and get points across if there's a little aha moment or a little chuckle. And yeah, I mean, what also got me to this point is like just social media marketing. That's kind of my background. But yeah, definitely the alcohol part.
That's the shortest string from A to B.
Boom.
Well, are we ready for game time? I feel like we hit all the questions we wanted to ask.
Okay.
Yeah. Before my computer freezes and throws me out, let's play our favorite game and our only game so far is called...
Which is why it's our favorite.
It's called Guess Who Brand Mascot.
Ooh,
so we are going to basically describe to you, most of them are old school brand mascots. That's sort of like a lost art. In a couple clues, and you have to guess who they are. And if you don't know, you can ask yes or no questions, sort of like the Guess Who game.
Okay. Ooh, this is fun.
Are you ready? We're going to do two of them.
Oh, boy.
Usually we start with a softball, but I don't know that this is a softball.
Ooh, bring it on.
Okay. I'm going to do this one.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Here's the clue. This eager animal mascot has a blue N emblazoned on his chest. And since 1999, his current look has been trendy gear, which is a backwards hat, etc. He consumes his product through a straw and then engages in athletic activities like skateboarding to emphasize that the product gives him energy and nutrition.
So many things I would say. So I got two clues, right?
You can ask 3 yes or no questions.
Okay. Is the product a beverage?
Yes.
That was a waste. You said he drinks it for nutrition. And I was like...
He needs to be like, he just wasted one of his wishes.
Like, is this the... No. It's the it's a rabbit, right?
Nice.
Because he was either that or the Cheetos thing, but you don't drink Cheetos. And
oh, that's true. They do have similar gear.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Oh, I can't think of his name. The Nesquik rabbit?
Yeah,
Close.
that's the brand.
Does he have his name is Julio. I don't know.
It starts with a Q. It used to have a Q on his, I think, right, Al? Anyway, it's Quickie. His name is Quickie.
Oh.
Remember his ears would tie up together when he like drank it? They would like loop.
They probably haven't used his name in a while because
I'm sure.
Oh yeah, we've ruined that name. And he's a bunny. Come on.
He's a bunny, and his name is Quickie. Yeah. If they want to step into the alcohol game, we're game.
We've got some ideas.
Alcoholic chocolate milk with some Quickies.
Oh. Yeah, that hasn't been tapped into yet. There we go. There's a blue ocean for you. Okay, good job. The second one, I'll read this, Daddy. So this mascot is a large creature of indeterminate species. He is large and waddles around on short legs and hangs out with his friends who are also mascots. He started out evil before becoming good, and he's been around since the 70s.
Is this like an Avengers movie or something? This is not a comic book character.
No, it's not.
Large and waddles.
These are tricky.
This one is hard.
Is he purple?
Yes.
It's Grimace.
Yes.
Hey!
That was great.
Nice.
We knew if we said purple in the first clue, you'd get it right away. So we had to be like, I had to hide that one.
I know.
Wow.
It's like, he was a villain once? I mean,
He started out as a villain, which is so weird because I don't think of him as a villain at all now.
He used to steal milkshakes. That was his thing. So like the whole McDonald's family, like all those guys.
had an intervention with them.
I don't know. They all had roles. And then now everyone jokes at Grimace, like, what does he do? He's just hanging around.
I thought he was just like an old chicken nugget that just turned purple.
He does kind of give off an old chicken nugget vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it told us that he used to have 6 limbs, which I can't picture.
Ew,
I don't remember.
Spider Grimace?
Like a weird, it's just like coming for your milkshake with all 6 arms.
Yeah, it's aggressive.
That's nightmare fuel.
I know.
As a cursed image.
Sorry to haunt you.
No, yeah.
Well, congratulations. You did it.
Woo!
Awesome.
I think you should drink. You should take a sip.
Yeah.
Yeah. More.
Yeah, slam a mini gin bottle every time you get an answer right.
Oh boy, that'd be. Whew. It's like I'm flying again.
Well, I mean, that is the long and short of this episode. So, you've been just a delight. You've been so fun to talk with.
You guys are great too.
Before we go, tell us where you want listeners to check out you or Aviation Gin, and feel free to give URLs, social handles, etc.
Yeah, aviationgin.com for cocktails, like the aviation cocktail. I couldn't say off the top of my head earlier. My personal social for ratchet stuff and just ratchet thoughts is at the Adrian Molina. Lots of dog pics on my Instagram.
We're here for it.
So yeah.
You have to post a photo of the tattoo for our listeners.
It's out there. It's
okay, good.
It's there, yeah.
That's good.
With the tattoo your faces or my aviation one?
What I was trying to say before I got cut off the last time was that I think your Mount Rushmore on your back is going to be Monica from the Peloton, me, Allie, and Ryan Reynolds.
I was going to put Blake Lively there for consistency.
No, I'm sorry. Blake's out.
Blake Lively's out. Oh, okay.
Unless Lindsay and I have to compete against each other to get the coveted brandsplaining spot.
Okay, yeah.
A duel. And maybe Grimace. Grimace can just be in the background with all 6 limbs.
I think Grimace will look dope on my calf or something. Just like large nugget shaped calf. That's like, what's that? It's Grimace. Upside down.
With a milkshake.
Now I have to Google Grimace tattoos, so I'll report back.
Yeah.
That's going to put you on a watch list. So, probably.
Like the cops are instantly called when I write in like Grimace tattoo ? Like,
we see you.
Okay, Adrian, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ladies. This was awesome.
We'll talk to you later.
Awesome. Can't wait. Bye. Thank you guys.
Okay, bye. To stay up to date with the Bad Girls of Branding, a nickname we gave ourselves, subscribe to the podcast everywhere you listen. And if you like what you're hearing, leave a 5-star review.
And follow us at Brandsplaining on Instagram and Facebook, and at Brandsplain on Twitter, or go to brandsplainingpod.com.
Brandsplaining is brought to you by the Obedient Podcast Network, with production support by Martini Hill, cover art illustration by Halela, and special projects by Orly Spire.
Other podcasts developed by the Obedient Podcast Network include Forward, bringing you the weirdest emails and mass messages from everyone's craziest relatives, and Fangasm, where we read erotic fan fiction about your favorite TV, movie, and book characters. Think Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, The Office, and Star Wars, to name a few.